Picture this. It is 11 p.m. on a Friday. You are 38 years old. You are sitting on a velvet sofa in an apartment that you pay for, drinking wine you bought with your own money, surrounded by silence you fought hard to earn. By all modern metrics, you have won. You are the woman society told you to be: independent, successful, unbothered, and free. So why does your chest feel so heavy? Why does this freedom feel less like a victory lap and more like a waiting room? This is the paradox of the modern independent woman that we rarely discuss openly. We are told that needing someone is a weakness, that relying on a man is a trap, and that ordinary love, boring, domestic, steady love, is beneath us. But biology and the human heart do not always read the same memos as pop culture. When was the last time you received good news? Maybe a promotion, a raise, or just a funny moment on the street, and reached for your phone, only to realize there was no one specific to call. Not a friend, not a parent, but a partner who is witnessing your life alongside you. That moment of hesitation, that phone hovering in your hand, is where the illusion cracks. You aren't just tired. You are lonely in a way that success cannot fix. And I want you to know, before we go any further, that you are not crazy for feeling this. In my work, I speak to hundreds of people every month, and I would estimate that for every woman loudly celebrating her single era on social media, there are 3 others quietly staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if they accidentally traded intimacy for autonomy, and if it's too late to get a refund. We need to put a name to this feeling, because if we don't name it, we cannot change it. This isn't just about bad luck in dating, and it certainly isn't because there are no good men left, although I know how comforting that excuse can be. The dynamic we are looking at here is what psychologists often call hyper-independence. This is a defense mechanism where a person, often a capable, high-achieving woman, subconsciously decides that relying on others is dangerous, so she ensures she never has to. It starts as a suit of armor to protect you from disappointment, but over the years, that armor fuses to your skin. Eventually, you forget how to take it off. You become so good at taking care of yourself, so efficient at managing your own emotional and financial needs, that you accidentally edit out the space where a partner would fit. There is a very common narrative in social circles today that says, men are just intimidated by strong women. We tell each other this over brunch to make ourselves feel better. And while insecure men certainly exist, we have to be blunt enough to look at the other side of that coin. In many cases, a man isn't intimidated by your strength. He simply looks at your life and sees no job opening. He sees a fortress without a door. When you project the energy that you don't need anyone for anything, you attract men who want to be taken care of, or you repel the men who want to be useful, giving partners. You have become so complete on your own that your life feels less like a partnership opportunity and more like a museum where nothing can be touched or moved. But this didn't happen because you are arrogant or cold. Usually, this pattern is born from a deep, hidden wound. Maybe you grew up watching a mother who was completely dependent on a father, and you saw how trapped she was. Maybe you watched her lose her voice, and you made a silent vow at 7 years old, I will never be in a position where I can't walk away. Or perhaps you did try to lean on someone in your 20s, a boyfriend, a parent, a friend, and they dropped you. The pain of that fall was so sharp that your nervous system recorded a new law: dependency equals death. So, you overcorrected. You swung the pendulum all the way to the other side. You decided that if you never ask for help, you can never be rejected. If you never need, you can never be deprived. This creates a psychological loop that is very hard to break. You crave connection, that ordinary love, where someone brings you tea without asking or holds you when you cry, but your body rejects the vulnerability required to get it. When a man actually tries to help you, you might feel a spike of irritation. You might think, I can do it faster myself, or why is he trying to control me? You push him away to maintain your safety, he steps back, and then you feel abandoned again, which only confirms your belief that you are better off alone. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are starving for intimacy, yet you are wearing a sign that says, keep out. We also have to talk about how this affects your view of what love is supposed to look like. When you have spent years fighting for yourself, peace can feel boring. Many women in this position unknowingly chase chaotic, emotionally unavailable partners because the anxiety feels like passion. Stability, the man who calls when he says he will, the quiet Sunday morning, the lack of drama, feels suspicious. Your nervous system is wired for the hustle, for the climb, for the fight. It doesn't know how to rest. So when ordinary love finally shows up, you might not even recognize it. You might dismiss it as no spark, when in reality, it is just the absence of trauma. You are grieving the loss of a love you are simultaneously terrified to accept. Let's step directly into the shoes of this woman to understand what the world looks like from her side of the velvet sofa. From the outside, her life looks curated and enviable. She has the career, the travel photos, and the freedom to do whatever she wants on a Saturday morning. But if we peel back that layer of polished success, we find a profound, exhausting type of fatigue. This isn't just physical tiredness from a long work week. It is emotional exhaustion from being the captain of the ship for decades. 4 years, she has been the one making the decisions, the one solving the crises, the one everyone else relies on. Her parents call her when they have health scares. Her friends call her when their marriages implode. Her boss calls her when the project is on fire. She is the designated strong one. And while she takes pride in that, there is a secret, desperate wish buried deep in her chest. She wants to retire from being the strong one, even just for an hour. She fantasizes about a relationship not because she wants to be rescued financially or socially, but because she wants to put down the heavy bag she has been carrying since she was a child. She wants to come home, drop her keys, and have someone else say, "I've got this. I handled dinner. I handled the leak in the bathroom. You just sit down." But she never says this out loud. She is terrified that if she admits she is tired, if she admits she craves to be taken care of, she will be seen as weak, regressive, or just like all the other women who lose themselves in a man. She has built her entire identity around being low maintenance and self-sufficient, so asking to be held feels like a betrayal of her own brand. There is also a haunting fear of expiration that starts to creep in around this age. At 38, the dating landscape feels drastically different than it did at 28. She goes on dates, and she feels the invisible pressure of time ticking in the background. She sits across from a man and finds herself auditioning him and herself simultaneously. Every pause in conversation feels like a failure. Every joke that doesn't land feels like a sign of incompatibility. She doesn't have the luxury of just seeing where it goes anymore. Or at least, that is what her anxiety tells her. She feels she has to be perfect, perfectly attractive, perfectly interesting, perfectly chill. She dares not show her crazy, her insecurities, her needs, her fears, because she believes the margin for error has vanished. She thinks, if I show him I'm needy, he'll leave, and I'll have to start all over again, and I don't have the energy to start over again. And then there are the quiet regrets, the ones that truly hurt because they are so small. She finds herself mourning the ordinary love she used to roll her eyes at. Years ago, she might have judged her married friends who spent their weekends at IKEA or arguing about whose turn it is to walk the dog. She thought that looked like a trap. But now, in the silence of her apartment, she realizes that those mundane moments are actually evidence of deep intimacy. She misses the things she never even had, the sound of someone else breathing in the room while she reads, the familiarity of a partner who knows how she takes her coffee without asking, the safety of having a witness to her life. This is the hardest part to admit. She feels invisible. When you are single for a long time, you stop being seen in the way a partner sees you. Your colleagues see your output, your friends see your social persona, your family sees their daughter. But no one sees the texture of your daily existence. No one notices that you bought a new dress, or that you've been sad for 3 days, or that you have a new scar on your knee. That lack of witnessing creates a specific kind of hollowness. She walks around feeling like a ghost in her own life, vibrant and solid to the public, but fading away in the private sphere. This fear often manifests in contradictory behavior. When she finally meets a decent man, she might sabotage it. Why? Because the intimacy is terrifying. If he gets close, he might see that she isn't the invincible superwoman she pretends to be. He might see the lonely little girl inside who is desperate for approval. And the shame of that exposure is so high that she would rather push him away and stay lonely than risk being seen and rejected. She tests him. She withdraws. She waits for him to mess up so she can say, "See? I knew I was better off alone." She protects her heart so fiercely that she ends up suffocating it. She is locked in a prison of her own making, holding the key, but too afraid to turn it because she doesn't know who she is without the walls. Now, if you are a man listening to this, especially if you are dating or married to a woman who embodies this level of independence, your head might be spinning. You might be thinking, this is impossible. If she wants a partner, why does she actively push me away every time I try to step in? Why does she ask for space and then complain she feels alone? What am I supposed to do? This is the moment where we stop blaming and start translating. Men and women often speak two different emotional languages, and when we are hurt or scared, we revert to our native dialect, which usually sounds like nonsense to the other person. When this hyper-independent woman says, "I can handle it myself," she may think she is communicating strength. But what the man hears is a quiet but devastating message. You are redundant. Your help is not needed, and frankly, I don't trust you to do it right. We need to understand that in the language of many men, feeling competent and useful is the emotional currency of the relationship. When you reject his help, you don't just solve a problem quicker. You accidentally chip away at his sense of purpose. He feels useless, he feels like a placeholder, and his defense mechanism kicks in, which is often withdrawal. He stops offering help, not because he doesn't care, but because he has learned that attempting to connect through action only leads to rejection and feeling incompetent. But here is the translation for him. When she is hyper-independent, she is actually testing you, not maliciously, but instinctively. She is asking, do you love me enough to persist? Can you see the vulnerability I am hiding behind this armor? When she swats away your offer, what she often needs is for you to step forward gently and say, I know you can do it, but I want to do it with you. I want to share the weight. She needs a partner who is secure enough to allow her to keep her strength, but also loving enough to remind her that she doesn't have to use it all the time. She needs an invitation to put the armor down, not a command. Let's also translate the craving for ordinary love. For many men, the instinct when a partner is sad is to perform. If she is lonely, he thinks he needs to whisk her away on an exciting trip or buy a grand gift. But the woman trapped by hyper-independence doesn't need performance. She needs presence. When she misses ordinary love, it means she misses the reliability of a witness. She is longing for the simple, unsexy proof that you are staying. She doesn't want you to fix her feelings. She wants you to sit on the emotional couch with her. For a man, this means shifting from the language of solution to the language of connection. When she comes home exhausted and quiet, and you ask, "What's wrong?" and she says, "Nothing," do not accept it at face value and retreat to the television. That's her defense mechanism speaking. She's too afraid to tell you she's exhausted and lonely. Your translation needs to be an action of presence. Instead of saying, "Just tell me what the problem is so I can fix it," which only adds pressure, try saying, "I can see you're carrying a lot of weight today. I'm not going to ask you to talk about it, but I'm going to sit here with you, and I'm taking over the cooking. You don't have to do anything but exist near me." What she fears most is that if she finally admits her need, she will be judged as manipulative or weak, and the man will run for the hills. What he fears most is that if he tries to connect, he will be judged as ineffective, controlling, or rejected, so he stops trying. They are both protecting their old wounds. Her fear of abandonment, his fear of failure. The only way out of this silent standoff is for the man to realize that his true value to this capable woman is not in his ability to solve her external problems, but in his ability to be a safe, consistent emotional haven. The one place where she is allowed to be less than perfect, less than strong, and just herself. You don't have to carry her bag, but you do have to carry the shared emotional space. We've seen the pattern, and we've translated the language. Now we have to look deeper, because in every dynamic where two people are disconnected, there are a few harsh truths, uncomfortable habits and secret behaviors that keep the prison locked. You can't heal what you refuse to look at. The first harsh truth, and this is primarily directed at the woman stuck in this cycle, is that the refusal to communicate your need is not strength. It is emotional laziness disguised as self-sufficiency. We have convinced ourselves that being low maintenance is the path to love, when in reality, it is the path to loneliness. When you consistently say, "I'm fine," or "I don't need anything," you are doing two damaging things. You are forcing your partner to be a mind reader, which is an impossible job, and you are denying him the opportunity to show up for you, which is the very thing that builds connection. You are protecting yourself from the pain of asking, but you are guaranteeing the pain of isolation. You are waiting for him to prove his love by breaking down your walls, but you are using your walls as the ultimate excuse for why he will never be enough. You are prioritizing the preservation of your emotional safety over the experience of shared love, and that is a selfish choice, even if it is driven by fear. You have to own that. The second harsh truth, one that involves both people, is the subtle, toxic practice of unspoken scorekeeping that maintains emotional distance. The hyper-independent woman often keeps a quiet record of everything she does that her partner doesn't, or everything she has handled alone. She thinks, I took out the trash, paid the bills, and managed the crisis at work while he played video games. Therefore, he owes me intimacy. And when he inevitably misses her cues or fails to anticipate her needs, she mentally puts a checkmark in the "I told you so" column. She uses his failure as validation for her independence, thinking, this proves I can only rely on myself. This isn't a strategy for partnership, it's a strategy for quiet revenge. And for the man, he senses this judgment. He knows he's being measured and found wanting, so he stops trying, which in turn reinforces her belief that she's alone. It's a closed loop of accusation and withdrawal. The third truth, aimed squarely at the man who is married to or dating this kind of woman, is that you are using her strength as an excuse for your own emotional laziness. When she says, I'm fine, you know, deep down, she isn't. But accepting her facade is easier than facing the conflict that would arise if you challenged her. You retreat into the shadow of the relationship, physically present, but emotionally checked out. You let her take on the mental load of the relationship, not because you can't do it, but because she's faster and more competent at it. You think, well, she's so independent, she probably doesn't want me to get involved. This is a lie you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of her vulnerability and your own fear of inadequacy. You have become passive, allowing the emotional temperature of the relationship to drop to freezing, simply because the comfort of the status quo is easier than the hard work of persistent connection. Finally, the biggest hidden truth for the woman is this. The reason you miss ordinary love is that you have a nervous system wired for chaos, and peace feels like a threat. That dullness, that lack of spark you use to reject perfectly good, consistent partners, is not a lack of connection. It's the absence of the drama that you associate with being alive. You have been in survival mode for so long, whether due to childhood wounds or past relationships, that your body mistakes adrenaline for passion. Ordinary love feels quiet, and quiet feels empty, and empty feels like the abandonment you swore you would never experience again. So you subconsciously chase the impossible, the man who is simultaneously consistent and unavailable, who both grounds you and provides the drama. You need to confront the fact that your search for excitement might just be an addiction to anxiety that is guaranteeing you will never settle into the peace you secretly crave. The good news, after all that harsh truth, is that unlearning survival strategies is a practical, achievable task. No one is asking you to fundamentally change who you are, but you do need to consciously override the old programming. These shifts are realistic, and they are designed to counter the exact fears we just talked about. Her fear of asking for help and his fear of being rejected or redundant. For the woman who is tired of carrying the weight alone, the first step is to engage in the practice of receiving. This requires you to intentionally create space for someone else to step in, even when you feel you can do it better or faster. Start small. Once a day, ask for one simple, tangible thing you could easily do yourself. Ask him to open a stubborn jar, ask him to decide where to order takeout, or ask him to just listen to a work story without offering solutions. The critical part is that you must then suspend judgment. If the jar is still too tight, or if the takeout suggestion is boring, you must not correct him or mentally deduct points. You must accept the effort as the point of connection, not the outcome. You are retraining your system to understand that asking for help leads to connection, not collapse. For the man who is tired of being shut out and feeling useless, you need to practice the persistent, warm invitation. You have to stop accepting her "I'm fine" immediately and retreating to your comfort zone. When you see her armor go up, when she seems exhausted, tense, or quietly withdrawn, you need to gently persist. Do not interrogate her or demand she talk. Instead, you could try a phrase like, "I'm not asking you to solve anything right now, but I can see you're wrestling with something heavy. I'm going to sit here and watch a ridiculous movie, and you can just land next to me. No pressure, just company." This is an invitation to emotional rest, not a demand for performance. You are offering a safe harbor instead of a wrestling match. This persistence shows her that you are not intimidated by her fatigue and that your love is not contingent on her strength. To counter the chronic scorekeeping that poisons relationships, couples need to implement the 2-minute check-in rule. This should be done consistently every evening, maybe while making tea or before bed, and it must have 2 simple elements. First, each person shares one moment of their day where they felt appreciated or successful. Second, each person asks one question about the other person's upcoming day. This isn't for discussing bills or logistics. It's a dedicated space to witness each other's inner lives. By establishing a routine of positive, low-stakes communication, you build an emotional consistency that is the very definition of ordinary love, making the hyper-independent person feel seen without feeling scrutinized. And finally, if you are single and longing for that domestic connection, the shift you need is the intentional embrace of mundanity. You have to stop treating no drama as a red flag. Actively seek out partners who embody stability and consistency, and when you feel that familiar urge to declare, "There's no spark," challenge yourself. Ask, is the spark missing, or is the trauma missing? Force yourself to enjoy the quiet, predictable activities with them. Instead of focusing on the excitement they don't provide, focus on the safety and reliability they do provide. You have to train your nervous system to prefer the gentle hum of peace over the siren call of chaos, because that choice is the true prerequisite for finding the ordinary, enduring love that lasts. If you have recognized yourself in this story, whether you are the woman wearing the heavy armor of independence or the man retreating because he feels useless, I want you to take a deep breath. This pattern, this deep ache of loneliness, is not a failure of character. It is a failure of communication. We were all handed a survival kit in childhood, not a manual for adult love. Many of us are still operating with the fear-based tools we picked up when we were 6 or 16, and those tools, which once kept us safe, are now keeping us disconnected. It is okay that you are tired of the hustle, and it is okay that you are confused by the mixed signals. The greatest misconception about deep connection is that it is a spontaneous event. True, lasting intimacy, the kind that produces that beautiful, reliable, ordinary love, is not magic, it is maintenance. It is the conscious, daily choice to put down the armor, even when your entire history screams at you to keep it strapped on. It is the man choosing to persist with a gentle question when his partner withdraws, and it is the woman choosing to accept imperfect help rather than perfect isolation. This process will feel awkward and uncomfortable because growth always feels like loss at first, the loss of your old, familiar protection. You are not searching for a partner to complete you or to fix the wounds of your past. You are searching for a witness who is willing to stand beside you while you heal yourself, and you are longing for a life that is defined by steady, shared safety rather than bursts of temporary excitement. That simple, ordinary love is the most extraordinary thing in the world, because it is the proof that someone has learned your hidden language, and they are choosing to stay. The greatest strength is not being able to do it all alone. The greatest strength is daring to admit you don't have to. If you heard yourself in this story, maybe this is your invitation to stop fighting alone and start speaking honestly, even if your voice shakes. If this video helped you understand the space between men and women a little better, please take a moment to hit the like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they are not alone in their loneliness. And subscribe to the channel for more blunt but warm conversations that help both men and women understand each other better.